excellent connection. So I want to let's be quiet for just a second. Make sure the mics are muted. Check, check, check. Check, check, check. Oh, there we go. All right. Well, we're live, so who knows what can happen. Everything can go wrong all of a sudden right off the get-go. Well, hey, everybody, thanks for tuning in. Let me get to my notes here. This is a live conversation with one of our candidates, and I'm going to be talking to Nathan Dennis here for a little bit tonight, and I'm excited about it. We just met for the first time, and so I'm looking forward to kind of having some time to have a conversation with him. If you want, you are welcome to put something in the chat, and we'll try to kind of follow along with that best we can, and if we can get to some of those thoughts or those questions, we'll see what we can do with that. No guarantees, because we kind of have a plan. We want to try to follow as best we can. A couple things I want to say right off the get-go, though. My name is Matt McMorris, and I'm a pastor. I'm at Grace Valley Church right here in Lodi. And yes, my wife is on the school board, but I assure you, as people have asked, and I thought it was kind of interesting, I assure you that she has no agenda behind this. I have no agenda behind this, and I've spoken to the candidates that have agreed to do this and told them that I really genuinely want this to be a good, healthy conversation for them to be able to communicate what it is that they stand for. I have no political agenda. I just want to kind of get that out there. This is not associated with any group. I'll be honest with you. There's been some people kind of talking about one of the groups that it was going to be in. I was looking originally for just a place to put it because I thought if I just did it on my own channel, it wouldn't be the best idea. And so I decided to just kind of look at some of the groups in Lodi, and I found one of them that said that they were willing to let me do it. And so I agreed to it, and then got some feedback that doing it with any particular group is going to appear as though it has a particular bias or something. Whether that is a good one or a bad one didn't matter. It just was something that I decided it would be better just to do it on my own and share the link out. And so that's what we've decided to do, is just share it with you. So hopefully everything's working well and you can hear and all is well on your end. I hope you understand that there's no sponsorship, there's no personal benefit, there's no gain. I'm giving up several nights to do this because I wanna get to know these candidates, and I felt like it would be valuable for me to spend a little bit of time to get to know them. All 5 candidates, I will tell you, because there's been some questions about this, all 5 of them have been invited. All 5 of them are still invited. Only 3 of them have responded. The 2 incumbents, Bill and Julie, have responded and told me that they would not be participating, and I respect that. That's their decision. I would encourage them to consider it. I think it's a valuable opportunity for them to be able to sit down and share some of their thoughts about the school board as well. So I just wanted to kind of get those things out of the way, that this is not part of any group. This is completely independent. My wife being on the school board doesn't matter. And yes, every single candidate was invited, and I would love to be able to sit down and talk with any of them if they would be willing to do that. So the purpose of this conversation is just really to allow the candidate to express what's important to them. I'm just a regular citizen wanting to know. In fact, I know Heather Barron probably the most, but I've only come across her a couple of times. And so Nathan and Scott Bilsey are 2 that I've never met until tonight. I met Nathan. And so looking forward to the conversation that I'm going to have with them. So we're going to jump right in because I want this to be predominantly Nathan's conversation tonight. Nathan, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Glad you're a part of this. Yeah, jump right into that microphone so everybody can hear you. I want to start real easy. I want to kind of get into this where people get to know you a little bit. Tell me a little bit about what you think that you'll bring to the table that might be unique or special or could add value to the school board.
When I go into something, I go all in.
Yeah.
And this, especially with my son being in 1st grade, I research, I go all into something, and I will not back down. I'm going in all in right now in this candidacy. I'm here for the children, for the teachers, for the community.
So what are some of the things that are important to you? You're obviously you're a dedicated father, you're a business owner, so you've got business experience and you understand kids and all of that. So what are you hoping to bring to the table as far as those things are concerned to be able to help the school as a whole?
Hopefully to curb excessive spending.
Yeah.
That's part of the issue going on right now, and I don't want to see excessive spending needs to be curbed.
In what way? What are you seeing that you don't like?
Well, when I look at their budget, we have a surplus, yet we need more money per year for referendum. That's mismanagement, in my opinion.
what are some of the areas that you feel are being mismanaged financially? Where do you think money is going that it shouldn't be going to, or where should it be going that it isn't?
There seems to be a lot of money pooled towards sports, and I do believe sports provide a excellent role for our children.
Sure.
That, that's taking up allocating a lot of money, and sorry, there's a
Sorry, that was my fault.
no worries. um, I guess what bothers me is mostly that threatening to take teachers' money away. That's asinine.
Which that's happening because of if what I'm understanding is that if the referendum doesn't get passed, one of the major cuts is that classrooms, and this is what I'm understanding. I could be wrong on this. What I'm understanding is that classroom sizes could potentially go up, and
Yes.
teachers' salaries, there won't be as much for teacher salaries, so we would have to lose teachers, which would increase classroom sizes. Is that the way you're understanding
That's
this?
the way I'm understanding it as well.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's extremely unfortunate, especially the other night at the forum. I hate to use names or call people out, but one of the other incumbents brought up that we have a high turnover rate. Why are we pressing to decrease their salary if,
Yeah.
it's
Are you for the referendum, or is that something that concerns you?
it concerns me because I'm not understanding the allocation of where the money is going to be allocated.
Okay.
And I've read that the building's leaking, etc. Turf management. Perhaps that's okay, and perhaps it's needed.
Right.
But exactly where it's going to be allocated, I can't find those answers. Such like you were just saying. Above all else, I don't want to see teachers' budgets cuts.
Yeah.
They're already struggling enough, and they're doing the best they can from what I've experienced. Threatening to take their money away should be the last thing we're doing.
Do you think that with some of and again, I haven't looked at these budgets, so I'm genuinely just asking you. I'm not trying to have an opinion on this. Do you think that some of the expenditures coming out of the school with things like some of these advisory boards and the Dane County Equity Consortium and some of these other things, do those kind of expenditures, and again, I'm not asking you what your political take is on those things at this point. Do you think that why are we spending money on those things when we are concerned about being able to keep teachers?
100%. That should be a place we should look into. Why are we spending money on that? We shouldn't be.
Okay.
Yeah. Those should be going to the teachers, and the board has the ability to overturn the medical advisory commission that they've appointed. The board has a final say. Yep.
I don't think they're getting paid anything though. If I understand correctly, I don't know that from a budget standpoint.
Okay, I'm not sure on that.
I may have misspoken when I kind of implied that some of these boards, but I'm more referring to there was a recent survey I think they did. They hired a survey company. And just to be clear for people that are listening in, I did not prep with my wife on this stuff. These are genuinely things coming to my mind as I talk about this. My understanding is that there was a survey done recently that I believe cost quite a bit of money. There was
$11,000, I believe it was.
Okay.
And that was by school. I should know the name of this school resource. That's not the name, but yes, they spent $11,000 to do the survey. And to my understanding, the survey resulted in less than 10% of the population returning the survey for the referendum. How can you...
Seems like a lot of money.
Exactly, for such a small return.
Do you think there's value in those kinds of surveys and things, though? Or is that one of those things like... is that a misallocation of funds? Or is that just maybe we didn't do a good enough job of getting the survey promoted?
I think surveys are very valuable, but at that small of a return rate, yes, misallocation and marketing of the surveys. The majority of the public that I've spoken with through my campaign wasn't aware they even received a survey. So
Yeah.
that tells me it was came and looked like junk mail or something along those lines. And that's extremely disheartening to me that our tax dollars, the community's tax dollars, went to a survey and they're using that as a potential choice of what they want to decide with
Yeah.
such a small return.
Recently, there was a survey that I say recently. This has been a little while now. There was a survey that went out where they were asking people about their opinions on, I think it was masking, if I remember correctly. And the survey came back that quite a few, I want to say the majority of people actually wanted to eliminate masking. Whatever the issue was, that's not even necessarily what I'm worried about. The survey came back, and there was a pretty strong opinion from the community, and the board voted to go opposite of what the majority voice, the majority opinion of the community was. Talk to me a little bit about that, because you're, on the one hand, you're elected to represent people. On the other hand, you have a conscience as well, and you've got to kind of go with what you feel is right. What's the decision-making process for Nathan Dennis on walking through, this is what the community is telling me they want, but this is what I really believe?
In regards to masking, I mean, obviously, I'm against masking. I don't want to see our children masked. If the 75% of the community doesn't want to see children masked, well, then that's what we should do. Freedom of choice. That's
Okay.
what makes America great. Freedom of choice. It should be up to the individual parents and the children to decide, I don't want to wear a mask. I don't want my child to wear a mask. If you want to wear a mask or get the shot, for that matter of speaking, I'm all for it. Go for it.
Yeah.
But I don't want to be told that I need to do so on the opposite end of the spectrum.
What if the majority of the community, what if the survey had come back just as a what if? Because you can what if things to death. What if the majority of the community came back and said, we want masking? We would prefer that our kids stay masked, but your personal preference, based on whatever research you've done, your personal opinions, religious beliefs, whatever the case may be, you feel like masking should be optional. The majority of people think that it should be mandatory. How do you make a decision along those lines?
As you know, if I were to get elected as a school board member, I'm not delegating, representing the community.
Okay.
And if the vast majority of the community says we want masks, using this as an example, I would have to agree with the community. That's what the majority wants.
Sure.
And this is a tough analogy here, because masking is such a heated debate right now. I have a family that I can't see, because they refuse. Oh, you didn't get the jab. You're the virus carrier. This is extremely unfortunate. It's tearing families apart. Masking, if I were to become the elected official and the majority of the community wanted kids to wear masks, you're there to represent the community. I would have to side with the community on that.
Sure. I respect that you hold to an opinion, and you also want to respect the people that have elected you. There's another kind of hotly contested issue happening in our community right now where a lot of the decisions for the school from a medical standpoint are being decided by a medical advisory board.
Mm-hmm.
The concern that many people have is that this medical advisory board was not elected. It was selected by, I don't even know who selected. I don't think it was the whole board, but a group of people perhaps that selected some local medical professionals. And the way I understand it is that the school board voted, I believe it was 5-2, in favor of adopting whatever the medical advisory board decides. Now, we heard from Bill and Julie the other day that they're the final authority, and I understand that they can make changes to that. But the way it stands right now, if the advisory board comes back and says this is what we recommend, it automatically goes into policy because it's already preemptively been voted on by the board, and they would have to actually go in and make a motion, get it seconded, and all of those kind of things. Do you feel like that's a wise decision for the school board to kind of just farm out decisions like the medical decisions to an advisory board, or do you think it would be better to look at those as they come in one at a time?
One at a time. Farming out to, and I'm not privy on exactly where this was farmed out, who farmed them out, where this board is from or operated from, or what political side they stand with. I don't know. But no, our board should make the decisions for our community, not by the medical board. Hell, no, our board should make that decision.
Yeah. I think I understand, I think, why they brought in a medical advisory board, but it seems to me that what you're saying is they should be advisory, but anytime they say this is what we suggest, it should come back to the board for discussion.
100% agree. And we already have the CDC suggesting to all the school boards across the nation how we should be handling this. So why are we having another advisory board on top of what the school board is already an advisory board? Why do we need another? How many hands are we going to put in the fire here?
Sure. Well, and you bring up the CDC. What are your thoughts on the CDC? A lot of people, the CDC is kind of they write the Bible on how to handle COVID, and other people think the CDC changes with politicians and whatnot. Where do you stand on gathering your information and your data to make a decision based on how you feel people should handle masking?
Well, they appear to change every day. They've gone from N95s to cloth masks to now we need N95. They don't fucking know what they're talking about either. Excuse my language. They're coming around full circle, and they're indirectly admitting that they're wrong too, and they don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
It's not working. It's clearly not working. If full masking was working, we'd be over this.
So what do you, if you were the sole decision maker today on this is what I would do to keep our kids safe, keep them in school, and keep them their mental health strong and everything. If you got to make the decision single-handedly, you're King Nathan. How would you prefer to handle COVID in our schools? I don't know if I'd want to be King Nathan or accept that full responsibility for the community. I'll give you that one. What would your conversation with the community look like with the school board?
Essentially, freedom of choice.
Yeah.
If you want your children to wear a mask, you want your children to have the shot, excellent. Vice versa, if I don't want that, or I don't want them to wear a mask, excellent. We do need to look out for the teachers as well, because they teach our children.
Sure.
So we have to make them happy and meet their needs also. And these are fierce times right now, and it's a very heated debate.
Yeah.
Everyone has their own opinion, but go back to, again, this is America, freedom of choice.
Do you think that there's any possibility of where you would recommend masking at certain times and in certain places? So like a partial mandate. So for example, if we're going to have a ton of people in the gymnasium, should there be masking for that? But if it's outside at the football field, no masking for that? Or do you kind of feel like it's freedom of choice across the board? Kind of one or the other?
I think it should be eliminated completely, and freedom of choice. If you want to wear a mask, wear a mask. Otherwise, no. I want to see them out of schools. Masks, especially sports, anywhere. No, I want them out.
Yeah.
I want them gone completely.
Okay. Well, let me change gears with you a little bit to another topic that nobody's arguing about, and there's no debate over at all. Critical race theory.
Okay.
Some people, probably even hearing me say that, some people probably scoff at it. They're like, it's not even a real thing. I don't want to feed you any thought.
It is a real thing, but continue. Please.
Well, that's my question: is what is it in your opinion? How do you view critical race theory? How would you describe it? Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Does it concern you? What are your kind of general thoughts on the topic of critical race theory?
It's very concerning to me. My cousin, she is a lawyer, and she didn't learn about critical race theory until law school. She balked at the matter of me asking her questions on how do you feel about this. Well, they don't teach that. That's a law degree topic. I'm looking up the 5 tenets of critical race theory, and they're something that I don't want any K through 12 student to be taught. By definition, similar to equity, everyone can have their own definition of it. And however, the 5 tenets, I'm looking these up right now.
Sure. I'll ask you while you're doing that. You say that you don't think it's something that they should be taught in K through 12. Some people would argue that critical race theory is a proper teaching of American history. It's teaching slavery and whatnot, and because you're a privileged white man, so to speak. I'm just using kind of the lingo of the day.
Sure.
You don't know what you're talking about. You have no right to say this. So help me understand what it actually is and why you don't want it taught in K through 12.
First off, a black man founded these 5 tenets. So, and they are the notion that race is ordinary and not aberrational, the idea of an interest convergence, the social construction of race, the idea of storytelling and counter-storytelling, and the notion the whites have actually been, essentially enslaved themselves. It's black men and women have stressed concern that CRT should not be taught. There's one of, what's her name? I should know all these stuff, but when you try to discuss multiple topics, you lose.
That's all right. I want you to be able to get your thoughts across, so it's not about punching through a list.
Right. I could find it. She's a chancellor at UW-Madison. She's against teaching it to the children. It provides nothing except for white people to feel guilty, and that we shouldn't feel guilty. The true history of what happened should be taught, but no child should feel guilty about what happened 100 years ago. We shouldn't be felt, oh, your grandfathers had slaves, you need to feel bad about that. No.
Yeah. Do you feel like our current school board and administration is treating critical race theory correctly? Are they being fair with how equity and especially racial equity is being handled in the school?
I know it's a very big topic right now. My kid is only in the 1st grade, so I have not experienced or know, and I've talked to a few friends in the community that have children in the high school age. I don't think it's come to fruition yet, and I hope it does not. So
So it's something you would be kind of on the lookout for.
I think we need to be on the lookout for. Yeah.
There was a book that was given to the staff as optional reading for some additional growth. There were several options they could do, and one of those options was to read a book. I think it was So You Want to Talk About Race by Ijeoma Oluo. A lot of people were upset that a book that comes from a particular perspective was given without another book from an opposing perspective. So my question to you is this: do you think that these things are negative in and of themselves, or do you feel like we need more diversity in how we're even teaching it to our teachers? Like, are you against them reading these books, the teachers, or in the school giving them to
Are they
giving
being
it to them?
forced to read them, or are they being
It-
asked to read them?
They were.
And what is this book? I'm not familiar with the book you're referring to.
Yeah, so this particular book comes from the standpoint of somebody that would be for critical race theory
Okay.
and those kinds of things. It was a perspective of, it was written by an African American woman, and I read the book, and it definitely comes from a particular bias, whether one agrees with it or not. It comes from a particular bias. So several people in the community, I heard, had gotten together and donated some other books, and I have not read that particular book yet. To the
believe
school.
Woke racism.
Yeah, woke racism. And they donated that book to give to those same teachers as well, so they could get both perspectives.
I'm very happy that that group did that, because if you're going to read one, I want both sides. This should not be biased. There should be no bias as a teacher or a board. Kind of negating your question. I'm not trying to. What?
No, that's okay. I guess what I'm trying to drive at is, we live in a culture that I feel like a lot of people, I think, don't know how to define critical race theory.
Right.
So what I'm trying to understand from you, and I correct me if how I wrap this up, correct me if this isn't correct. It sounds to me like you're saying anything that teaches that there is a superior or inferior race, where it would make somebody feel guilt. You don't want that kind of stuff taught. You're okay with a book from the left or the right being given, but you would like there to be both perspectives.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I want to make sure that I'm understanding you correctly.
Yes.
Because I did a whole bunch of research on critical race theory. I read a dozen plus books not long ago, and I really did try to read from both perspectives. I didn't want to just, I started with So You Want to Talk About Race, which is the book they assigned, and then there were other ones that Vince Breinig had spoken of and talked about, and I read those, and I read Thomas Sowell, and I read several authors from, and it actually helped shape my thinking in a unique way to have both sides.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of books, and this is a topic that I think is going to get more complicated as time goes on. In public school libraries or in the classroom, would there ever be a time that you would be okay with banning a book, and why would you want to? Why would you, cancel culture, like ban the books?
Cancel culture. No, I'm not for that. That's such a broad question. What I would...
It's hard because it often plays to our own bias, in that I wouldn't mind one type of book being banned, most people think, but I don't want this book being banned. So I'm trying to ask it in a fair way, which is why it's broad.
Right. Sure, I could suggest my political agenda and say I want to see X books banned, but no, books are a phenomenal resource for our children, and they're phenomenal learning opportunities and educational tools and devices. I don't want to see any educational book banned. In regards to biases, I think I brought this up a little bit earlier. I don't want to see a specific bias book in the school library, whatever way that swings. But banning a book, Connecticut banned Mouse. Texas is banning books as well.
Would you support that?
Depends on the book.
Okay. So what are the criteria that you would look at? Like, if a person all the way on one side of the issues, or somebody all the way on the other side of the issues, comes to you and says, "Hey, I don't think this should be in our schools." What are you going to be looking for to make that decision? How does that decision-making process take place?
If it's a book that discusses or promotes hate in any form of fashion, no, that should not be allowed in any public library, or not public library, but any school library,
Okay.
direct promotion of a political side or stance. No. There's the whole point of public schools is to teach our children and educate them on why and how the judicial system works and giving them an open mind.
So a lot of people would say that our former president, Donald Trump, was hateful. I'm not giving an opinion. I'm not asking your opinion.
Sure.
Just to use it as a point of reference because it's a modern thought process. A lot of people would say he was hateful, he was racist, he was all of these things. So if a book about Donald Trump that claims that he is a racist, homophobe, all of these things, political in nature, is that a book that you could see wanting banned because it's being touted as being filled with hate?
There's many people in America that can't stand that name, and no, that should not be banned. They took his name and affiliation with hate, supremacy, bigotry. Absolutely not.
So what is hate then? Like what you talk about if it promotes hate or a certain political party. So I tried to come up with an example that many would say this is a hateful book about a particular political party. I know this is a hard question, and I'm not trying to intentionally be hard on you. But I feel like we're electing a board to make decisions like this, and so I feel like it's tough. But I want to try to.
What is hate? That's such a broad question. I don't know how to answer that. Direct negativity towards any one race or gender.
Okay.
That would define as hate.
What about books that promote various sexualities and gender, non-typical gender, things that have historically not been typical gender ideologies, promoting transgenderism or LGBTQ? And I'm talking not specifically about things that discuss them academically, but there are some that would be concerned about books that explain certain aspects of the sexuality that would be borderline pornographic. So I'm not asking you about your opinion on LGBTQ or transgenderism or any of those things, but books that maybe would be written in a way that could be considered provocative. Mm-hmm. Is that something that would concern you, or do you feel like that's part of the academic aspect of life?
That is concerning. And
okay.
Those type of books you're referring to, that I do not agree being in the K-12 library. The internet's prevalent. This doesn't need to be forced on any child in the K-12. Now, provocative, pornography suggestive books, I totally disagree with that.
When it comes to equity and racism, we've talked a little bit about it. Our school district has been a part of the Dane County Equity Consortium. Is that, and I don't want to pin you if that's not something you've looked into yet. Are you familiar with it? Do you have any thoughts or opinions about that particular organization?
I'm not as familiar as I should be, but I essentially anything Dane County is a liberal mindset and mantra, and I don't want to see that being forced on our wonderful community. There's no reason we should adhere or endorse that, or be forced to endorse that.
How do you define equity? Because and I know that's a broad question, and I
was going to ask you the same thing. How do you define it?
Well, I'm not running for school board. You can come see what I think about stuff. Like every Sunday at 10:00.
That's the issue. Everyone defines it differently.
Right, which is why I'm asking, because it's being pushed pretty strong amongst our administrators, where they're saying things like, we need more equity in our schools. We're pushing equity, and equity is a big part of what they're talking about.
To me, it's fairness.
Okay.
To me, I define equity as fairness. To one person or individuals or group or anything. Fairness. That's how I define equity.
Okay. Are there any particular committees or that you have any interest in joining or being a part of? I'll try to lighten it up a little bit because I know there's
Sure.
finance committee, there's curriculum committee, there's policy committees, things of that nature. Is there anything in particular you'd like to specifically get involved in?
Oh, I don't. Maybe all of them. There's only so much time in the day
Right.
to get involved in.
I think everybody's assigned to one or two, maybe. I don't remember. I know Christy's on two of them. I think.
And that comes if you're elected.
Yeah,
board
once
member.
you're on so there's the board, and then they have subcommittees that meet.
Gotcha.
So that's kind of what Bill, I think it was Bill, was talking about the other day. Somebody recently, so I don't want to put this in Bill's mouth at all. Somebody recently was talking about how subcommittees meet and discuss things and then bring those back to the board, and then they vote on them.
Okay.
So policies, curriculum issues, all of that most of that is handled at the subcommittee level.
Okay.
So
It's financial and what was the other ones?
I know there's policy, there's curriculum. I want to say there's a couple others, but I don't.
Curriculum, and I'd for sure be interested in those.
Yeah, and you've
Absolutely.
mentioned finance a couple times. That's
Yeah.
something that's of concern to you.
Yep.
Adam is the president. I don't know if you had any chance to get to know Adam Steinberg at all.
I have not met him. I've heard of him. I have no. So
I have no doubt that Adam is sincere. I believe he wants to help the kids. So this is not a personal attack. He's a strong personality. One of the, and I say this with the utmost kindness and respect to you, one of the concerns I've heard from people is that you're maybe too nice. You're kind of just you're an
Sure.
easygoing guy, easy to talk to. You know, you came in early tonight and we sat down and we just chatted for a little bit. Adam's a strong personality, and there's several others on that board that are strong personality. Does that are you easily intimidated?
not at all.
Okay.
No, not at all. That's in this type of setting, and the forum the other night that many people saw me at the PAC. I have not had much public speaking experience, and no, that can be intimidating. I just have not had the experience, especially with the two incumbents. They're used to that.
Right.
They've had it. Intimidated? Absolutely not. I'll hold my ground, and you're not going to change my mind. And I won't back down either.
Yeah.
I won't be intimidated.
Well, and I feel like when you have these meetings, you get all this, you get the board minutes and you get all of this stuff in advance, which helps. So a lot of times being put on the spot for anybody, being put on the spot can be challenging.
Sure.
So I feel like once you've got all that kind of stuff, that helps. Everybody gets on two committees, and let's see. I don't know that I understand that. I'm getting some folks that are messaging me some information here. So,
Oh, okay.
yeah, but I think there's a couple different committees that you can get on. There's a little delay too, so when I say it, it takes a little bit of time for it to get on there. What is it about the Lodi School District that you are? And I think you got asked this question the other night, and I thought it was a good question. I think you got asked this. What is it about the Lodi School District that most encourages you? I think it's really easy sometimes to focus on negative things. What do you love about Lodi and Lodi Pride and Blue Devils and all that stuff?
Our community and our teachers.
Yeah.
I can't speak for middle school or high school teachers because I have not experienced it. But my son, being in first grade, the primary school teachers are absolutely wonderful.
Yeah.
Absolutely wonderful. And our community, the Carson Strong and the togetherness of this community is wonderful. Absolutely wonderful.
Yeah.
I grew up in Sun Prairie. Back then it was small, well, a lot bigger in this town, but
Sure.
still small in retrospect. And now it is a
It's gotten huge.
bustling city that I want nothing to do with. And I've watched what a monopolized school board can do to
Mhm.
that city, and arbitrary spending. No.
You talk about the togetherness of our community. A lot would say that right now our community is pretty divided even. I think there's I agree that there's still kind of the small town aspect to it that you can walk down the street and see each other, and that it's sweet. But do you feel like the school board right now has, if nothing else, at least a messaging problem that's maybe creating some division?
100%.
Okay.
Definitely. Yes, the community, as you just said it, we're tight knit. We all, I would like to believe, we all love this community. That's why we live here.
Yeah.
Everyone loves the community as a whole. School board messaging issues, transparency issues is not being addressed, and it's clear change is needed. And they're taking away or trying to control what the community wants, vice versa, what they want versus what the community wants.
What do you mean?
I believe they're on a political agenda right now and not listening to the community and voting how they want to in regards to all these aspects.
Who do you think has an agenda? I mean, do you think it's the majority of the board? Do you think it's the administration? Like, where do you think that charge is coming from?
I think it's being charged down from our governor and then the state superintendent and being passed down. And I do believe it's a political agenda that they're conforming to instead of speaking out and listening to the community, what they want to hear, not just what the higher ups want them to vote on.
What about that agenda that seems that you're saying seems to be happening? What are those things? What do you think that agenda is? What do you not like about that? What's concerning to you?
All the liberal bias from the governor and the superintendents.
Yeah. Like what?
This is CRT, equity being pushed as an agenda instead of you brought up the multiple books earlier. You know, why are we only, you have this choice or this choice to read these books, and then when, I think that was last year that the teachers, they were able to take technology or equity class.
Something like that.
Do you recall?
I don't know the specifics
that was
on it.
last year.
If somebody knows, feel free to leave a comment or message me or something.
At any rate, I believe that was last year.
Okay.
The majority of the teachers took an equity class, and I believe that was pressured by the administration, which is unfortunate. Technology is the way of the future. I would think it should be more of a 50-50 split.
Okay.
You know, why? Tells me it was a agenda.
Okay. I asked Adam Steinberg back when we had, I forget what they called it off the top of my head, but that the meeting up at the school where the community got together and discussed some things. I asked him about some of the racism stuff, and his comment to me, which I don't question, was that there is a lot of racism in our school. We are seeing racism in our school.
In our district?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, he's saying there are jokes that are being made, and not necessarily from an administrative level. There were two concerns, and I'm not speaking for Adam, just to be clear. This is, as I recall, it was something to this effect. So please, nobody quote me or don't go to Adam and say, Matt said you said this. As I recall, I know that he told me that there was racism. Now the part that I'm not 100% sure on is he said there was name calling and jokes and stuff amongst the kids, and then there was just a lack.
District.
There's a lack of knowledge of how to handle racial issues amongst our school, because we do live in a predominantly white community. The last study I saw was well over 90% white. So those that are minorities, those that are people of color, those that are maybe of a different sexual preference or whatever, how do you help them? How do you help them feel comfortable as part of the school board? What do you do for let's say a child of color that maybe some of the kids in the school are picking on him? Because the answer seems to be we need to do more equity training.
No, but I can't help. I can't change how some arrogant little bully wants to treat a person of an ethnicity. Anti-bullying is how I would handle this. Equity, And I also believe that this community, the actual racism that's going on in this community is so minuscule. I find his comments not believable. I go down where I grew up, Sun Prairie. That's getting closer to 50-50 as far as ethnic groups. Here, yes, we are predominantly white. Not opposed to people of any color moving up here.
Sure.
I have not experienced or seen the true racism. A lot of the gas station owners around here are of other ethnicities, and I walk into there and they call me brother. I call them brother. It's nothing. It's all good.
So how do you propose we handle bullying? You said anti-bullying. What do we do about that if it's around race or any other issue?
Teaching or
like, would you say that a zero tolerance policy for any kind of bullying, or would you be?
Depends on the level of severity. I can tell you, and excuse my language, my son bullies someone, I'm going to kick his ass and tell him that's not acceptable. You do not treat anyone with hate or bully. That is completely unacceptable.
Right.
And that if the parents can handle it, then the board or school district, all right, you're kicked out, expelled, or suspended.
Do you feel, because this is how I sometimes feel, that we as adults have our issues, and it's like we're sometimes are using children as this microcosm to test theories out. Like,
Sure.
My littlest, all of my kids are have friends of color, but my youngest has a couple in particular, and never one time does this idea of them being non-white, because there's different races, not one time does that ever cross her mind. But it's like we're putting this on them.
Process that people. Yes, I think I'm following what you're trying to say here, and it is a thought process on how parents reflect to their children. My son has, can you hear me? Is this a decent level? You
Yep.
Can hear me?
Yep.
Okay. He's asked me. There's a child in the neighborhood, and he's asked, "Hey, Dad, he's of a different color." That's okay, no problem. But what you're getting at is, yes, I do agree that there are certain parents that push that on them, and it's mostly at that age, it's a parental influence.
Adults are making a bigger deal.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on things like adding more programs for like the arts, language programs, things of that nature?
What type?
Just do you see the value in art? Because that could be another thing that if the referendum doesn't pass, that they could say we should.
What type of program? So, because they've discussed cutting shop class, and I think that's absolutely disgusting thought to even bring up. Shop trades. Those numbers of workers are dropping, and we need trade schools, and all.
So things like ag, shop class, STEAM, that kind of stuff.
Yes, absolutely. Yep.
Yeah, because you have a background in robotics, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you see value in all of this.
Absolutely. Yep.
So you would encourage moving forward with more of those kinds of things, because it seems like we have this system in America of we pump our kids through this educational system. If there's not enough money, those are the first things to go.
And that's terribly unfortunate that continue. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, I'm getting a couple notes here that I'm trying to kind of read as we go. But basically, you're saying that you want to make sure that kids can be learning all of these kind of things, not just preparing for a life of the academic world. You want to be able to see them go into different trades and
absolutely. And a trade career can make you just as much as a collegiate career,
right?
And then you don't have the debt,
the student
associated.
Debt. Yeah.
Yes. I know these STEAM classes that Lodi. I'm very proud that our community is doing that, and they can be expensive. I have not gone into that room or seen what they have to offer, but I do know robots and PLCs and those physical attributes are very expensive. However, it's a trend of the future. And
Yeah.
I don't want to see that cut.
You seem like you're a practical, hands-on kind of a guy.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us a little bit about, for those that maybe don't know you, tell us a little bit about what makes you who you are. Like what makes Nathan Dennis passionate about these things? I mean, you've got a business, you've got a kid, you got a lot going on. Why add this?
I've seen the direct outcome, especially during COVID. Last year, no, that would have been 2020. My father was involved in a motorcycle accident. He almost died. He's lucky to be alive. I was helping re-health him, keep him, helping with his I'm sorry, I can't find the word I'm looking for.
Is rehabilitation?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And helping my son do the online learning, and he was backed up 100 assignments a day.
Huh.
It was sorry, 100 assignments. That really, the out of school really hit me. We have to keep our kids in school. Sorry, I'm thinking about what happened to my father. I kind of lost track here. Where are we going?
Well, basically,
I'm getting a little emotional. I apologize.
that's okay. I want people to see. I want people to see that humanity. We're not. I think what I'm getting in our community right now is we want to make sure that we're electing real people that are making real decisions, and they're making hard decisions, because those decisions affect us. I've got 3 kids in the school system, so the decisions you make affect my children, and so it matters. And I think it matters to all of us, how you make those decisions. As keeping that in mind, what do you think is the future of our school district as far as bringing people back together? We've talked a little bit about the division. How do you plan to, because with masking, it's such a divide, and with critical race theory, it's such a divide, and with all of these other issues, there's so many divisions. How do you plan to bring, because a lot of that's going to be being open, being available, talking to people. A lot of people feel like the board isn't very transparent. What are some practical things that Nathan Dennis wants to do to help bridge that gap?
Well, I've been very humbled. I go, excuse me. Speak with me in public. I've been extremely humbled the amount of people that support me and want to vote for me. And in regards to on the board, even if I'm elected, I don't make the final says. I don't make the choice. However, if there's a vote, I won't back down on my belief, even if 6 other members vote against it, or 6 members vote yes. I'm going to vote no, and that's okay. I can encourage or discuss and use facts to the board. I'm not God. I don't make the final say.
Sure.
However, I won't back down, and I won't be persuaded.
How important is the community to the job of being on the school board?
I think it's extremely important. The premise of public schools is for the community.
Yeah.
And our children are the wave of the future. And we need our children. They're our most valuable investment. So the community's input and how the community feels and is of utmost importance.
Do you feel like over the last couple years or so? Do you feel like you as a parent have been heard by the school board?
I have not taken enough initiative until now, so I can't answer that question.
Yeah.
Prior to this, I was not involved like I should have been.
So you understand? Do you understand the value? Because I think this is a big thing in our community, and I think this falls on both sides of the political aisle.
Mm-hmm.
You understand. It seems like the value of staying connected to people, listening to them, talking to them, being willing to answer. I mean, I've tried to be very kind, but ask you tough questions tonight because I feel like it matters. We don't want
100%
as the community. We don't want fluff.
I'm asking for votes from parents that their children are their everything. You know, my child's my everything, and I'm gonna have my view. But you probably have every parent's different for how they want their child raised, reared, represented,
and they matter to us. And
of course they do.
And what I love about our society is that we do have a political structure that allows us to vote for elected officials. What frustrates me, even if I disagree with them, is at least feel like we can connect with them and that they're going to be honest with us and we can answer questions. And I'm not talking about the school board. I'm talking about in general.
Sure.
Being able to talk. I like the fact that not too long ago I sat down with Mayor Ann Groves Lloyd and we were able to just have a conversation about things we agree on, things we disagree on, and just talk about that. And so I can appreciate somebody whether I agree with them or not if they'll at least have conversation. So it seems like that's where you stand, is that you really do want to serve. It sounds like you want to serve the community.
Absolutely.
Whether they agree with you or not.
Yep. I hope I've represented myself on where I stand. But that is right. If I were to be elected, this is a community elected appointee. I'm here for the community.
Yeah.
You know, not just my own agenda. It's for the community.
So answer this for me.
Yeah.
If you're elected, what is your biggest order of business right away? What do you want to get in and tackle right off the get-go?
The transparency with the spending and how it's going to be allocated.
Yeah, that's good. So do this then. As we wrap this up, take the last couple seconds here, and then I'll conclude this, and just talk to us. Give me that final passionate. This is why this is why I'm worth your vote, and kind of help us understand why Nathan Dennis is the guy that we should vote for. Whether I'm not saying that I agree with that, just to be clear. I'm saying, what is your opinion? What are your thoughts?
I respect that.
What are your thoughts on why should Matt McMorris give you my vote?
I'm a hardworking individual and a family man, and when I go for something, I go all in, and I've researched and studied. Might be outdating myself, but more than I have in college. I've been, when I go in, I go all in, and I'm here to represent our children and the community, and I will not back down.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to sit down and meet with me, and I know that this isn't easy, and I know that some of the questions were tough, but I think there's value in this, and I hope our community appreciates it. Where can people... I know you have a Facebook page, I think. Tell us a little bit about if they want to connect with you, ask you more questions, or follow up.
It's Nathan Dennis for Lodi School Board.
I know it's tagged
on
Facebook a lot.
Yep.
Okay.
Nathan Dennis for Lodi School Board.
So find you there, and if they've got questions, they can message you. Or
yep, absolutely. Feel free.
Perfect.
We could post or if you could post a link to my email or phone number.
Okay.
I don't think I want to disclose that right now, but
whatever you want out, we can be sure to post.
Sure.
Cool. Well, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. I know that this is a lot of information, and I know for a lot of us, we don't know anything about Nathan Dennis, and I've tried as best I can to be impartial and tried to learn from him and understand him. Tomorrow night, I have the privilege of sitting down with Scott Bilsey, who I also have never met, don't know much about. And he and I have spoken just a little bit. I know that he actually, kind of the number one question about him is where he stands on masking. And he even said that he wants to address that tomorrow night in our conversation. So we're going to be talking about it. and kind of seeing where he lands on that, and hopefully whether you agree or disagree with him, hopefully you understand his positions on those things and many of the other things that we've spoken about with Nathan even tonight. Be sure to follow him on his Facebook page, and just get to know him a little bit better, and hopefully you'll be able to learn some valuable information to help you understand Nathan Dennis a little bit more. And we'll look forward to seeing you tomorrow night.